What would you do if you were homeless, hungry, and cold, and you suddenly found a wallet filled with hundreds of dollars? Would you keep it, or would you try to return it? This is the true inspired story of a homeless man in New York City whose single act of honesty changed his entire life and proved that even when you have nothing, you can still give everything. It was a freezing December evening in Manhattan. Snowflakes dusted the streets, and people rushed by, heads down, hands shoved deep in their pockets, avoiding eye contact. Among them was John Turner, a 52-year-old homeless man who had been living on the streets for nearly 3 years. John wasn't always in this situation. He was once a construction worker with a steady job, a home, and a family. But a terrible accident left him unable to work, and soon he lost everything. All he had now was a torn jacket, a thin blanket, and an old cardboard sign that read, "Just trying to survive another day." That night, John was sitting outside a small coffee shop, just hoping someone might spare him a few coins for a warm cup of coffee. As people hurried past, something caught his eye, a black leather wallet lying near the curb. He picked it up and quickly looked around. No one seemed to have noticed it was gone. He opened it, and his heart skipped a beat. Inside were several crisp $100 bills, a stack of credit cards, and a driver's license with the name David Reynolds. For a moment, John's heart pounded in his chest. He hadn't eaten a real meal in days. This money could mean food, a warm bed, maybe even a motel room for the night. He stared at the cash, his hands trembling. But then he whispered to himself, "No, this isn't mine." John sat there for a long time, the wallet still clutched in his hands. He looked at the ATM across the street. It would be so easy to take the money and disappear. No one would ever know. But then he remembered his mother's words from years and years ago. "Son, doing the right thing is easy when life is easy. It's when you have nothing. That's when your character truly matters." In that moment, John made a choice. He stood up, walked into the coffee shop, and approached the cashier. "Excuse me," he said, "can you help me find this man? His name is David Reynolds. I think he dropped his wallet." The cashier looked surprised. He took the wallet, glanced at the ID, and his eyes widened. "Wait a minute, I know this guy. He's a regular here." Within 15 minutes, David Reynolds rushed back into the cafe, his face pale and panicked. When he saw his wallet in John's hands, his eyes filled with overwhelming relief. "Oh my God, you found it. I thought it was gone forever." David quickly checked inside. Everything was there, the cash, the cards, and even an important photo of his daughter. He looked at John, his voice soft with emotion, and asked, "Why didn't you take anything?" John just smiled weakly and said, "Because I've already lost too much in my life. I don't want to lose who I am, too." David was speechless. He pulled out a $100 bill and offered it to John as a thank you, but John shook his head. "I don't want your money," he said. "I just wanted to do the right thing." David couldn't believe what he was hearing. Before he left, he asked John where he usually stayed. John simply pointed toward an alley near Central Park. The very next day, when John returned to his spot, a large bag was waiting for him. Inside were new clothes, food, a warm blanket, and a small envelope. The note inside read, "You reminded me that goodness still exists in this world. Thank you, David." But that wasn't the end of the story. A few days later, a black car pulled up near John's alley. It was David again, and this time he wasn't alone. He got out, walked over to John, and shook his hand firmly. "I told your story to my company, and they want to meet you." It turned out that David was the CEO of a small construction firm, the very same industry John had worked in for years. Within a week, John was offered a job, a place to stay, and a real chance to rebuild his life. Months later, he was back on his feet, working as a site supervisor, clean, healthy, and smiling again. When reporters later asked John about that fateful night, he simply said, "I didn't give back a wallet. I gave back hope, and somehow life gave it right back to me." Sometimes, one small act of honesty can change not just someone else's day, but your entire destiny. Because even when you have nothing, doing good costs nothing at all. If you believe that kindness still matters, please hit that LIKE button and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories that will touch your heart and inspire your soul. Thanks for watching.